Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Marinelli Podcast. In today's episode, I am going to take a look at how I believe the regular season in the NFL will finish and the standings heading into the playoffs. I will then take a look at the playoff picture and predict who will win the Super Bowl. And then on the other side of the shoe, I'll take a look at the odds to win the first overall pick and the draft order. So let's start with the NFC playoff predictions. So the Philadelphia Eagles are currently the first seed with an 11-1 record. I believe they will sustain their excellent play style and they will finish with the first seed. They're currently 11-1. I think they're going to win 4 of their next 5 games to finish the season 15-2. They'll beat the Giants twice, they'll beat the Bears, they'll beat the Saints, but they will lose to the Cowboys. Still, regardless though, they will still have that first seed. The second seed will be the Minnesota Vikings. They currently have a 10-2 record, and I believe they will win 4 of their last 5 games to clinch the North and that second seed in the NFC. They'll beat the Colts, the Giants, the Packers, the Bears, but they will get upset by the Lions. Okay. Next, the San Francisco 49ers. They are currently 8-4 and in good position to make the playoffs. However, they lost Jimmy Garoppolo for the rest of the season to a broken foot. Now, there is a little bit of reason to panic if you're a 49ers fan. However, you do have to remember, the 49ers are loaded on offense. They have so many weapons. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, among so many others. Not only that, they are fantastically coached and know how and are one of the better play calling teams in the NFL because of all the talent they have on offense, because of their excellent offensive line and their great coaching. They are a quarterback-friendly system. So any quarterback can come in and have success with that team. And that's exactly what we saw Brock Purdy do when he came in, threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Dolphins this past weekend. Not to mention, the San Francisco 49ers have one of the better defenses in the league on all 3 phases. The defensive line's great, the linebackers are good, and the cornerbacks and safeties are fantastic too. So the Niners will finish 5-0. They'll beat the Bucks, Seahawks, Commanders, Raiders, and Cardinals finish 13-4, even with Brock Purdy. Next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a shame that someone from this division has to make the playoffs because this division is literally the NFC East from last year. It's horrible. Despite that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the best team in this division by far. That is mostly due to the fact that they have Tom Brady, the undisputed GOAT of football, who knows how to win, especially in the playoffs. Yeah, their run game hasn't been great. They've had numerous injuries throughout the season, but I think the rest of their division is so weak. They're currently 6-6. I have them winning 3 of their last 5 games to finish 9-8 and get that 4th seed in the playoffs. Then we're going to move on to the NFC wildcards. So the Cowboys currently are the 5th seed in the NFC. They have the first wildcard spot, and I believe they will finish with the first wildcard spot. They're currently 9-3. I think they're going to win 4 of their last 5 games to finish 13-4. They're going to beat the Texans, Jaguars. They're going to squeak by the Eagles on Christmas Eve. They're going to beat the Commanders. The only team they're going to lose to is the Titans. For Dallas to win the NFC East, they need Philly to lose twice and them to win out. I just don't see Philadelphia losing twice. And I also see the Titans beating the Cowboys. So I think Dallas is 5th, Philadelphia is 1. The Giants currently have the 2nd wildcard seed in the NFC. But I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to come away with the 2nd wildcard spot. They are currently 7-5. They have the 7th seed or the 3rd wildcard spot. But I think they're going to win 3 of their last 5 games to get to 10-7 and secure the 2nd wildcard spot in the NFC. They're going to beat the Panthers, Jets, and Rams, but they're going to lose to the 49ers and Chiefs. And then finally, the Commanders. They are my prediction to finish 7. However, I think, realistically speaking, it could be the Giants or the Commanders that end up in this spot. What it comes down to is when the Giants and Commanders play each other later this season, and I have the Washington Commanders beating the Giants to get the 7th spot. The Commanders are 7-5-1. They're going to win 2 of their last 4 games to clinch the 7th seed, including by beating the Giants. They're also going to beat the Browns, but they're going to lose to the 49ers and Cowboys. Moving on to the AFC. AFC is also very top-heavy. The first seed currently are the Buffalo Bills with a 9-3 record. I think the Bills are very good on offense. They're well coached by Sean McDermott, and their defense has been battered this season, but those defensive guys are going to start coming back. They're going to get healthy right in time for the playoffs, and that's going to be a big help for them. I think the Bills will win out. I think they're going to win all 5 of their remaining games. They're going to beat the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Bengals, and the Pats, and they're going to finish 14-3 to clinch the AFC East and the first seed in the AFC. The games against the Dolphins and Bengals are going to be tough, but I think the Buffalo will find a way to win both those games, which they've been doing all season. Next up, I have the Chiefs. They are currently 2nd seed in the AFC with a 9-3 record. The Bills beat them earlier this season, which is why the Bills have the tiebreaker over them. However, the Chiefs are going to win 4 of their remaining 5 games to clinch the 2nd seed in the AFC. They're going to beat the Broncos twice. They're going to beat the Texans. They're going to beat the Seahawks, but they're going to fall to the Raiders. But they're still going to finish 13-4 and get the 2nd seed in the AFC. Next, the Bengals. The Bengals are going to end up winning the AFC North and getting the 3rd seed. Currently, the Ravens are sitting atop the AFC North and in the AFC's 3rd seed. But they lost Lamar Jackson in their win over the Denver Broncos this weekend. Now, the Ravens are obviously a much better team with Jackson at the helm. That's no shot at Tyler Huntley. He's a very serviceable backup, but the Ravens are better with Lamar Jackson. And listen, Lamar Jackson is a free agent this season. He's trying to make bank in the offseason. So if he comes back from this injury prematurely to play a game in the regular season here, and then he re-aggravates his injury and it becomes more serious, that could have serious ramifications for his future contracts, including the big one he's supposed to get this offseason, and for his career in the future. So I think if I were Lamar, I would take my time recovering and make sure I was fully healthy before I come back. That means, for that reason, I have the Ravens. The Ravens are still going to make the playoffs, but the Bengals are going to win 4 out of their last 5 games to win the AFC North and get the 3rd seed in the AFC. They're going to beat the Browns, the Bucks, the Patriots, and the Ravens, but they're going to lose to the Bills. The Ravens will still make the playoffs as a wild card, but we'll get back to them later. Next, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are currently in the 4th seed right now with a 7-5 record. They have a pretty favorable schedule down the stretch, and I think they're going to win 4 of their last 5 to top the AFC South and make the playoffs as the 4th seed in the AFC. They're going to beat the Jaguars twice. They're going to beat the Texans. They're going to beat the Cowboys, but they are going to lose to the Chargers, who will be fighting for their playoff lives. Next, let's move on to the wild cards in the AFC. So, the 5th seed in the AFC for me, I think, is going to be the Miami Dolphins. They have proved a lot of people wrong this year, and their offense is among the best in the NFL. The addition of Tyreek Hill and the emergence of Jalen Waddle as a true superstar have really helped Tua Tagovailoa develop. And I think the Dolphins are going to win 4 of their last 5 games, including beating the Chargers, Packers, Patriots, and Jets, to finish 12-5 on the year and clinch the first wildcard spot in the AFC. The only loss they'll have is to the Bills, but that'll be a close game. To be fair to the Dolphins, they actually beat the Bills earlier this season, And as good as the Dolphins are, they're not sweeping the Bills, which is why I have them losing to the Bills. Next, I told you guys that the Baltimore Ravens would still make the playoffs, but they would not win the division because of Lamar Jackson's injury. Tyler Huntley will lead them to a 3-2 record for the last 5 weeks of the season. They're going to beat the Steelers, Browns, and Falcons, but they're going to lose to the Bengals and their second game against the Steelers. And they're going to finish 11-6. And then finally, the last wildcard spot in the AFC is currently owned by the Jets, who have a 7-5 record. I believe the Jets hold on and claim that final wildcard spot in the AFC. They're 7-5 right now. They are going to finish 9-8. So they're going to win 2 of their last 3 games to secure that wildcard spot. They're going to beat the Lions and Jaguars, but they're going to lose to the Bills, Dolphins, and Seahawks. Good news for the Jets, though. That should be enough to get in over the Chargers. No other team from the AFC West is getting in. No other team from the AFC South is getting in. And I don't think the Browns or the Steelers get in either. So the Jets should have enough to make the playoffs at 9-8. Keep in mind, these predictions are after the Week 13 matchups, so it's before Week 14 even kicks off. So a lot can change before the playoffs actually start. But for now, that's how I have everything going down. Next, let's talk about the playoff picture. We'll start with the NFC. Obviously, the Eagles are the 1 seed. They get the bye. So in the wildcard matchup, I have the Vikings defeating the 2 seed Vikings, defeating the 7 seed Commanders. I have the 3 seed 49ers defeating the 6 seed Seahawks, even with Brock Purdy, because of how many weapons they have on offense, how they are a quarterback-friendly system, so any quarterback can come in and excel with how good they are offensively, how good their play calling is, and how many weapons they have. The Seahawks will make it a tight game with Geno Smith, who's balled out this season, but the 49ers will win. And then the 5th seed Cowboys will actually beat the 4th seed Buccaneers on the road. Now, this is an interesting game because, to me, the Buccaneers, despite being not so great this season, have Tom Brady. He knows how to win in the playoffs. It's in his DNA. The Cowboys, on the other hand, they haven't had a lot of success in the playoffs. I believe they've won 1 playoff game in the last 25, 26 years. So this looks like an all-time trap game for the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys have just been so good this year on defense. They've been great on offense with all the weapons they have. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott have looked great running the ball. Dak Prescott has been shaky at times, but he's been overall pretty good this season. And the Cowboys have great pass catchers too, like CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. They're even thinking about bringing Odell in, which would add to their talent. This seems like a very big trap game, but overall, I just think the Cowboys, despite the Buccaneers having Tom Brady, who's an expert at winning at the playoffs, I think the Cowboys are just the better team over the Bucs this year, and they will win. Moving on to the divisional round, the 1 seed Eagles will host the 5 seed Cowboys. Now, they've played each other once this year, and the Eagles have defeated the Cowboys handily in that game. They play a second time on Christmas Eve, and I have the Cowboys winning that game. So this playoff game, both teams will have won once against each other this season, and it will realistically come down to defense and the run game. Both teams have fantastic defenses and can run the ball superbly well. But I think the Eagles have the better defense than the Cowboys, and I think the Eagles are a better running team. Don't get me wrong, Tony Pollard and Zeke are fantastic running the ball, but when you have a quarterback that's as mobile as Jalen Hurts and can provide just as much of a running threat as your running backs can, that opens up the field a lot more than if you just have 2 running backs, right? So I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Eagles will defeat the Cowboys. And then I actually have the 2-seeded Vikings defeating the 3-seeded 49ers. And then in the conference championship, I have the 1-seeded Eagles beating the 2-seeded Vikings in an offensive shootout. Both defenses are solid, but both offenses are among the best in the NFC, and they're going to go back and forth exchanging touchdowns. But the Eagles' defense is better than the Vikings' defense, and there'll be a couple drives where the Eagles' defense stops the Vikings, holds them to field goals, and the Vikings' defense will not be able to do that with the Eagles' offense, and that'll be the difference. So the Eagles will make the Super Bowl again for the first time since 2017. Now, if we go to the AFC, the Bills will get the first seed. The Jets have had a really solid year, but they are not going to beat the 2-seeded Chiefs. The Ravens, the 6-seeded Ravens, will lose to the 3-seeded Bengals. I don't know if Lamar Jackson will be back for this game, and if he is, he might not even be 100%. Might not want to risk re-aggravating his injury, because he does want that contract at the end of the season. So, and the Bengals are just so good running the ball with Mixon and Perrine. Joe Burrow's continued his excellent run of form from last year, and their receiving core is just scary. So I have the Bengals winning. And then I actually have the 5th seed Dolphins defeating the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, since they traded A.J. Brown, they've been super reliant on the run game. When Henry doesn't do well, they struggle. And I think the Miami Dolphins run defense shuts down Derrick Henry. And then Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill absolutely run all over the Titans secondary. In the divisional round, I have the 1-seeded Bills defeating the 5-seeded Dolphins. Again, this will be the third time the Bills and Dolphins play each other this year. I have the Bills. The Dolphins won their first matchup. I have the Bills winning the second matchup, which is still yet to happen. And in this matchup, I just think the Dolphins are good, with all due respect, but the Bills are the better team. If it's going to come down to who can throw the ball better, and he's shown immense signs of improvement, but I'm taking Josh Allen in that game over Tua Tagovailoa. And then the Bengals will go into Arrowhead just like they did last year and beat the Chiefs in the playoffs again. Burrow is currently 3-0 against the Chiefs after his Week 13 win. And I think Joe Burrow improves to 4-0 against the Chiefs. It's been so far, it's been a one-sided rivalry between those two teams, and I think that continues. And then in the AFC championship game, I have the 1-seeded Bills defeating the 3-seeded Bengals. Both offenses are fantastic. This is going to come down to defense, and I think the Bills' defense just edges out the Bengals' defense. So I think the Bills will win. It's also going to be a lower scoring game than many people think. And then in the Super Bowl, the Bills are going to defeat the Eagles in a very high scoring thriller. Both teams have the potential to win this. Both teams have great defense and offense. It will come down to the final drive. Whoever has the ball last will win the game. I just happen to believe the Eagles will score on their final drive to win the Super Bowl, their second in franchise history. Okay, now let's switch gears and take a look at the draft lottery. So first we'll take a look at the odds to win the first overall pick. So the 1-10-1 Houston Texans have the best odds to get the first overall pick. The 3-10 Chicago Bears have the second best odds to get the first overall pick. And here's where it gets interesting. The Broncos and Rams, who are both 3-9 this season, have the third best odds to get the first overall pick. But the Broncos and Rams won't even get to use those picks because the Broncos pick is owned by the Seahawks and the Rams pick is owned by the Lions. So they don't even get rewarded for being bad this year. So that's quite unfortunate for both those two teams. The Rams, who are 3-9, have to be really, really thankful that they won the Super Bowl last year. They've just had a miserable season this year. They are the worst defending Super Bowl champions in terms of record in recent memory. And the Broncos, oh my goodness, they thought they were one quarterback away. They traded for Russ. They gave up an arm and a leg to get Russ, and it has not worked out. Russ has not been as good as he should be, and obviously not all the blame goes with Russ. The Broncos have had a lot of injuries, and Nathaniel Hackett has not been the right guy. But Russell Wilson has not been as good as he has been projected to be, and some of the blame lies with him as well. For the Broncos' sake, they have to hope Russ rebounds next year, because it's been a miserable season for them, and they're not even going to get a high first-round pick to show for it. But what's really sad is the Broncos have, a top 3 scoring defense in the NFL and one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they have the worst offense in the NFL, averaging 14 points a game. That's miserable. Anyways, now let's take a look at the order of the draft lottery and the teams who are projected to get the top 10 picks. The Houston Texans are projected at the first overall pick at 1-10-1. The Chicago Bears are projected to get the second overall pick at 3-10. The Seattle Seahawks are projected to get the third overall pick from Denver, who was 3-9. The Detroit Lions are projected at the fourth overall pick from the Rams, who are 3-9. The Philadelphia Eagles, who I have as my Super Bowl champions, are projected to get the fifth pick from the New Orleans Saints, who are 4-9. The Carolina Panthers, 4-8, projected to get the sixth overall pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 4-8, projected to get the seventh overall pick. The Arizona Cardinals, 4-8, projected to get the eighth overall pick. Indianapolis Colts, 4-8-1, are projected to get the ninth overall pick. And Atlanta Falcons, 5-8, are projected to get the 10th overall pick. So yeah, that is how I see the playoffs shaping up. I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning their second Super Bowl. And I have the Houston Texans getting the first overall pick. And with that, I think they use it to draft one of the top quarterbacks, like CJ Stroud, so they can start building for their future after a quite miserable year in 2022. But yeah, that's how I see everything shaping up. Let me know what you would change, whether it be playoff seeding, who wins the Super Bowl, and who gets the first overall pick. I'd be happy to hear what you guys all think. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.